a hail moon shining on the horses' back. Now, what I've done is, you'll see here, I've just outlined the PID. There it is. There's a receptacle. Will go right there. And also, last but not least, I also outlined the amp meter, and that will go right here. So what I've done is I've just outlined it, and I've drilled some holes in the ends, and I'm going to use my Dremel. And here shortly, I'm just going to cut these out, and I'll show you what it looks like when we're done. Oh yeah! Well, it looks like we got it. I got my amp meter set in there, and you see I got the other two holes cut. Look at this. My receptacle fits right there, and my PID fits right in this slot. So there you go. It's a little tight, so that's what it'll look like when it's all finished, all said and done. And of course, I got my cover that'll go on there. But now I'm just going to cut that other small hole for my power switch, and I think I'm going to use this power switch for the water. Nah, I'm just going to use the power switch for the whole darn thing. So that'll be great. Well, we'll be back with you shortly. Well, welcome back. We are well on our way to getting this box completed. We had to take a break yesterday, so we're back early this morning. We're going to finish it up, but I wanted to show you what I've got so far. Now that's what our box is going to look like. You'll see my PID controllers on this top left corner. Then I've got my receptacle. That'll look pretty cool because that goes on top. It looks like that. I'm going to have an on and off switch. Now I've actually changed my mind. I know we talked before about the on-off switch for the whole unit, and I just thought, no, it would be better. This on-off switch is going to operate this bottom receptacle, and I'll show you how we hook that up. And this top receptacle is only going to be for the heater. So we'll have a heater element up here, and that'll be controlled by this PID. And this bottom receptacle will be for the pump. So when it's time, all you got to do is turn the pump on, or you turn the pump off. And of course, we're going to have our amp meter down here in the bottom. So you'll see how neat that looks. Now, here's what it looks like on the inside. Let me take this cap off right there. What I've done, see, I've just cut the holes in there, just mated everything in there the right way. And now I haven't secured this in yet because the security, once you put them in there, they're kind of hard to get out. So once I wire this up, I'll secure that in there. And what I did for the bottom box, you'll see I've got my heat sink, and I just screwed the heat sink to the bottom of the box and the solid state relay to the top of the heat sink. So this all marries up. Actually, it marries up, if you'll see here, it marries up this way so that the base of my amp meter will be here, and PID will be up here, and then the switch will be, or the receptacle will be over here. That's pretty cool. Last but not least, I drilled a hole in the side and put a small grommet in there so that my wire will go through there. So we're going to get to wiring this up, and I'll be with you shortly. Look, before we go any further and load the box, I wanted to go over the Rec C100 and the way we wired that for those who kind of missed it. Plus, we're going to use the same wiring process for our new PID that's going to be inside of our container, our box. But here's what I learned. I learned that the MyPin TA4, which I intended to do originally, and you'll notice on here it's an RNR and not an SNR, which, as I have learned, evidently means a whole lot more to most people. And it didn't mean a whole lot to me until I tried to wire it up. So I've got to do some studying on this one because I think this is the one that has a relay inside the PID. But nonetheless, it's just a good thing I've got a bunch of these things laying around because I got them so I could play with them and get familiar with them. So I pulled out the Inkbird. So we're going to place the Inkbird into our box. We're going to wire it up the same way. Now this is what the end product will look like. You'll see that, I've got my Inkbird PID on the top left corner. I've got my receptacle, my switch, and my amp meter. And the way that we actually wired this up, and we'll show you, is that this on-off switch actually only functions this bottom receptacle. The top receptacle is going to be for the heater element, or whatever heating system you have, and the bottom is going to be for the water pump. So you'll be able to plug the water pump in, and at some point in time when you hit the right temperature, you just turn the water pump on or turn the water pump off. So that's what we're going to get to. But here, let's discuss briefly, if you recall when we wired up our Rex C100, and this is probably the easiest one of the easiest ones to wire up. They're all relatively easy. Remember, we have our main power cable. That's the cord that we plug into the wall. And all of these there's 3 wires. There's a green wire, there's a white wire, and then there's the black wire. Now remember, the black wire is almost always going to be what we call the hot, which carries all the power. Then you'll have the white wire, which is known as the neutral, and that's the return power. So you'll get power running through this. The green wire is always the ground. So it's relatively easy to follow at that point. So we hook the green wire to our green lug that's going to be on our receptacle, and that's the way we wired this one up. Then we've got one black power cable that goes to the number 1 pin. Yep, drop my pencil. It goes to the number 1 pin on our solid state relay, the SSR. Then we have another black wire that's jumped from that pin that goes to pin 1 on our PID controller. So you'll notice we've got one black wire here, and then we've got the second black wire that jumps from here and goes to the solid state, or to the PID on pin 1. The white wire, all 3 of these white wires are put together, and we put a wire nut on there because we have the white wire will connect to pin number 2 on the PID. So we've got pin 1 and pin 2. Those are the power. That's the power going into this thing. Now the power coming out, if you'll follow here, you got pin 1 with power goes in, and pin 2 is where the power comes out. On pin 2 we have a black wire that goes from here, and it goes to the one lug, the brass lug on your receptacle. The other white one, from where you have the wire nut, goes to the silver side of the same receptacle. So that makes this receptacle hot when the power's on. Now last but not least, and you don't have to use number 12 wire because it's only like 4 or 5 volts is going through here to trigger this solid state relay. I used it because it just happened to be handy, but you've got a negative and a positive. This negative and positive should match up on your PID controller with pins 4 and 5. The positive goes to pin 4, and it's marked on here. It's got a plus to plus, and then the negative goes from pin 4 to pin 5. Negative, negative. So it's relatively simple to hook up. And then last but not least, on pins 9 and 10 is your thermocouple. And those are also polarity specific. So just make sure that the red one is the positive, that goes on pin 10, and the blue one is the negative, goes on pin 9. And that's how we hook up our Rex C100. Now, when we do that, we hook that one up. The only difference is that, now let's just look at the side of this because it's written right on the side. If you follow this, you'll notice that we've got, starts here, pin 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2's not even written in because it's not used. So as a matter of fact, it's missing. So we got pin 1. Oh, there we go. Pin 1, skip 3, 4, 5. Then we go pin 6, skip pin 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They did leave one in there, but you're not going to use that one. And then we've got 11 and 12 in the center, 11 and 12. Now the only pins we're going to use are pins 6, 8, 9, 10, 3, and 4. And here's how we're going to use them. Unlike the Rex C100, where pin 1 and 2 is the power, on this one, pin 9 and 10 are your power. So you just go black wire on 10, white wire on 9. Then we'll go down to number 8. Pin number 8 is that wire that goes from your PID to your solid state relay, and that will be the positive, which would be, in this case, would be the white wire that we have here. So this one would actually go to pin number 8, which is located over here. Then We go to pin 6, we'll skip this one. Pin 6, we'll get the negative wire from here, the black one, goes to pin 6, which is located on this corner. So there you go, you're using 10, 9, 8, and 6. Now that wires up the PID. The only thing left now is a thermocouple. And your thermocouple is going to be on pins 3 and 4. And remember, we went through, here we go, 3 and 4. We went through that, pins 1, space 2, 3, 4, 5. 3 and 4 are the ones we're looking for. So we go, pin 3 is the negative, which would be the blue one, and pin 4 is the positive, which would be the red one. And lo and behold, your PID is hooked up. So without further ado, that's a good look at it again. And what we're going to do now is we're going to show you how our PID is all set up inside our box and ready to go. We'll be with you in just a moment. First, let me describe how we separated the upper and the lower portion of this receptacle so that you have power in one receptacle but not the same power in the bottom receptacle, or vice versa, which means that we've isolated them from each other. It's like cutting it in half and putting one in one location and one in another. And the way that's done is you'll notice on the side here where these screws are, and this is screws where you attach your power, and you can go from this one to this one, and these are connected. So if you put a wire here, this side is hot as well. So they're connected, which means this side of the wire or of the screw belongs to this plug, and this one belongs to that plug. So if you connected a wire here, both plugs are going to get power. Now to isolate one or the other from each other is you'll see this small tab right here. And this tab is, it's a real small one. You just take a pair of wire cutters and you snip it here and you snip it there, and this tab will pop right out. What that does is it separates these. So when you separate these, you're going to have to put a wire here to power this plug and put a wire here to power that plug. Does it make sense to you? See, that's how we isolate the two plugs instead of putting a couple separate plugs in or single plugs. We'll just separate it right here at this breaker point. Now, on the opposite side, you've got the same setup. So you would do both sides and do the same thing. So you could run this, you could run one power line from here and here into that circuit, and you could run this one into another circuit. Where what we're doing today is we're going to run the top one, we're going to run from our PID, and the bottom one we're going to run from the switch. And I'll show you how we did that. It's really, really neat. Okay. This is what it looks like inside our box. Our boxes, I mean, I know it looks like a mess, but this is not that difficult. Remember, we've got here's the wires. We've got a green wire. Now, normally you would use all the same color wires in order for consistency and conformity. I don't have all the right colors, so I just kind of hook some wires together and use the same colors, but I know where they go. I've got the green wire, and what did we say? The green wire always goes to ground. So if you follow this one, this green wire goes to this brown one, which goes here to the grounding plug on the switch, and then I jumped it from there to the grounding lug on the receptacle. So the green one is taken care of. That leaves us now with only the black and the white. And remember, the black one is a hot and the white one is the neutral. So how do we hook this up? There's my number one plug, and recall when we did the C100, the Rex? This is hooked up exactly the same way, but the only difference is we use different pins on the PID controller. So I've got a hot on number one. From number one, I'll take a hot, and that goes to pin 10. So I go from number one with a hot wire to pin 10. Now remember, we've got those 3 white wires put together with a wire nut. So there's my neutral. That neutral wire goes to pin 9. So I've got 10 and 9 taken care of. That's all done. Now, we've got the other hot pin, or the other hot lug, which is number 2. Whenever this solid state relay is triggered, that hot will come from pin 2. It goes directly to our amp meter, from one side of our amp meter, and then it comes out the other side of the amp meter and goes directly to the top receptacle, the top plug of that receptacle. So when this solid state relay is triggered, that top receptacle is going to be hot. Not the bottom, just the top one. And that third white wire that we have there is connected to that top receptacle. Now what I had to do was I had to put a small jumper wire between these two because the neutral is, it doesn't matter. I could have left that, I could have left it unclipped, but I did clip it earlier to isolate the top and the bottom. But we need a neutral on either one, so it doesn't matter. As long as power goes in top, it's got to come back out the neutral. So that one you can put, or you can put another wire from here to the bottom. It really doesn't matter. Now, we took one last hot wire from pin 1 and we put it into the bottom of the switch. So when the switch is in the off position, this wire is not energized. When you hit it on, when you turn the switch to the on position, from this black wire through this brown one, it energizes the bottom receptacle. So the bottom receptacle works only when you turn the switch on and stops working when you turn the switch off. But separate from that and isolated from that, the top switch or the top receptacle works only by the actions of the PID controller. All right, now how do we actuate the solid state relay? Small voltage, so I used a small voltage wire. We've got the negative, which is the red wire here, and the negative we went to with a red wire to pin 6. And then the positive with a blue wire, we went to pin 8. So that way, every time this solid state the PID triggers, it's going to trigger this solid state relay to connect and run that power to our switches, our receptacle. And then last but not least, remember we talked about pins 3 and 4 with the thermocouple. Pin 4, the red one, was the positive, and pin 3, the blue one, which is the negative. Fair warning, folks, if you hook those up backwards, especially the thermocouple, don't worry about it. It'll just read reverse. So you'll grab the thermocouple and it'll start working its way down instead of warming up. It'll start cooling. You know you got it backwards. It's not going to. Just all you got, open it up, switch your 2 wires, and it'll read correctly. So that should be very, very simple and makes sense. Now let's put this back together because this only folds over and everything fits. And you'll see how nice that looks. We're going to plug it in and power it up and show you how our new PID controller works inside our system. Okay, I've got the system on. Let me grab the light and a heat band and I'll show you everything else how this works, and I think you'll be impressed. Well, here we are. I'm pretty proud of this. This is the finished product. All right, let me turn this on. And you'll notice that my PID fires up, goes through its self-test, and right now I've got it set to 30 degrees Celsius. This is my thermocouple, and if I hold it, you'll notice that, see, this is the perceived temperature or value, and you'll see it's going up. It's going up because I'm a little bit warmer than what it was. Okay, we'll leave that, and you'll notice that the out button or the out light comes on, which means it's providing power to that top receptacle. Now, let's do something here. We're going to take, for instance, this is going to, matter of fact, let's do the light. There's our light. And it's trying to, you'll notice that our light is on. So you know your PID is working and your solid state relay is working. But let's see what happens when we heat that up. So we'll let that get up to, there it goes out because it notices, the PID senses that it's raising in temperature, so it doesn't need a whole lot. There, it's coming back on. So it's thinking through the process. How much power do I need? I'll continue to do, I'll go back and forth. Now, remember we talked about amps though. Our amp meter doesn't really move that much. I mean, it's very, very, because it's only 1/3 of an amp. Let's take this out. So we'll unplug the light. Now, we're going to use this now that we've plugged it in. We're going to plug it in like we would our pump. And when we turn the pump on, well, the light comes on. So your pump would be coming on. Then we would turn the pump off. So we'll leave that. Now, here goes the heating element. If we plug in our heating element, that will automatically come on. Now, you'll notice that your amp meter is up to just about 12 amps. Now, watch what happens as this heats up, because that heating element is now heating, and your PID is telling it to, there's the outlight, there it goes off. And it stays off. I'll let go of the thermocouple, and it's going there. It's giving it a shot and said, I wonder if that's good. It just went off. But you're able to watch your amp meter as it bounces back and forth, and as it gets closer to the 30 degrees, it'll start dropping in less and less amps. So this is amazing. This thing, we're actually watching it think through its process and deliver just the appropriate amount of power to that heater band. Isn't this fascinating? I love science and I love these things. Look, they're off, on, off. We're at there. It's just now it's just starting to spike. It's giving it a shot every now and then just to see if it needs any more. See there? And it's sensing it and it's measuring it. It's giving us, making us happy. Well, folks, I'm gonna shut this down. We'll just unplug our heater, unplug our pump, lay our box aside, and say that kind of does it for this edition of what we've got. This is the Inkbird. So we've done the Rex C100, we've done the Inkbird. We've got a couple of other ones. We've got a TA6 that we'll do. And remember, the TA4 RNR is different than the TA4 SNR, as I have so luckily learned today. Happy brewing.